Well, Tim, thanks so much for taking time to hang out with us today.
It is a privilege. I'm excited to be on your podcast.
Yeah. Well, we could talk about a million different things, but I know one of the things that I really wanted to hone in on our conversation today was about this whole idea of turning a setback into a comeback. And that is a strong life message that you have been delivering around 75 countries around the world. It's just an amazing message. Why do you think setbacks come into our lives?
I think what happens is that, number one, most people start with momentum. Momentum is a force and energy. If you look at little kids, they usually live out loud. If you see kids at recess, it's loud. They're in the classroom, the teacher's going, shh, quiet, because they're living out loud, so they have momentum. And then what happens to all of us, and I did say all of us, is life interruptions. A life interruption could be your parents get divorced. A life interruption could be an illness. A life interruption could be someone was molested. So various life interruptions come at different times of our lives. Here's what's interesting, David. Most people do not know how to handle a life interruption, because an interruption is unexpected. I didn't expect you, Mr. Interruption. You now come into my life, and now I have an interruption that has created some form of a setback.
Mm-hmm. Now, you're talking about things that kind of almost happen to us, but what's interesting is it seems like some setbacks are motivated by things that we do actually sometimes. Would you say that's the case, or what are some of those examples of that?
100%. I say in my book, Comeback and Beyond, that setbacks happen for three reasons. One is the miscellaneous department. We have no idea. And it really sucks, because I wish life was black and white, but it's not. It's gray. I wish that bad accidents did not happen to people when they're just trying to go to a joyful place, as far as car accidents, and it just happens. So number one is the miscellaneous department. Number two is that we make bad choices. And so setbacks in my life, some are miscellaneous, some are bad choices that I made. And so my choice created the challenge. And then the third reason I think that people have setbacks is because of people that they have in their lives that create a setback for them. So that's why that's so important. So you could be the right person with the right plan, but be with the wrong people, they can create a setback for you. A lot of the listeners, that's what they're facing today.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so miscellaneous, kind of just coming out of the universe, some things that we then cause, and then the third was people in our lives bring upon us, their 100%. Choices.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. Now, what are some of the unhelpful ways that people, including myself, I don't want to put myself outside of this category, often respond to setbacks? What are some of the ways that we go, that was wise, that wasn't healthy?
Well, one of the things that I think when people have a setback, so set means to fix, to solidify in a spot. So it's a set backwards, a setback, is that one of the mistakes that people do is they try to go back and fix everything. Mm-hmm. And I said on Oprah Winfrey's SuperSoul Sunday that a comeback is not a go back. And David, don't we both wish you can go back and just fix everything, right?
Sure.
But see, one of the mistakes we do is we try to go back and try to fix it all. And then another thing people do is they just get paralyzed in their past, and they continually talk about what happened and how things were, and they get paralyzed in their past, no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm. So if I experience a setback, whether it's miscellaneous, something I do, something somebody else does, comes upon me, what's the first thing that you would encourage me to do? I know you coach lots of people. You're coached to lots of people that we would even know by name.
Yes.
How do you coach those individuals? The very first thing that they need to do when they have a setback. I was just even seeing, just even this week, Chris Brown was in the, news, had some challenges. That's a
Yeah.
setback. What, who knows truth, whatever happens. But if you were talking to Chris Brown, in the midst of a setback, what's the first thing you want to do?
And I have talked to Chris Brown before. And so the first thing you have to do is you have to become awake, because a lot of times we have setbacks that we create because we're in some form of a fog. Mm-hmm. A bad relationship can create a fog. Maybe your son or daughter's having challenges, that could create a fog. Not enjoying your job can create a fog. And so when I say fog, F-O-G, you now need to become awake, okay? So when you become awake, the second thing you need to do is become now aware. Mm-hmm. I need to become awake. Number two, I need to become aware, like what the heck is really going on? So awake, aware. The third thing is then now I got to take inventory, okay? Where am I? How the heck did I get here? And how do I get out? Mm-hmm. So I've worked with Charlie Sheen since probably late 90s. And he seems to like to create those situations for himself. And he's a great friend. And he even calls my mother to check up on her. He's a really nice man, actually. And so, even for a Charlie or anybody else, we have to first become awake, secondly, aware, thirdly, take inventory. Where am I? How did I get here? That inventory thing is powerful, don't you think, David?
Yeah, absolutely. So awake. So I have made some mistakes in my past, and what's interesting is in the midst of the setback, I think back to in the midst of that fog, wanting to blame others. Yeah. Right. So there's a sense of wanting to blame, and that sometimes it really requires us to hit a bottom in order to be awoken.
Yes.
We have to lose something almost in order to be, woken up. And then the awareness, how would you define that awareness? Like, what do you mean by aware?
Where to be aware is to be clear-minded about the reality of the circumstances that you're in.
The fog is lifted.
The fog is lifted, and now you're clear-minded, and you move into this amazing place called clarity. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I tell you what, man, this world will hit you so hard, it creates a fog in your mind where even if you're awake, doesn't mean you're aware. Mm-hmm. Like you could be awake, but some people say, okay, I'm awake, but I haven't had my first cup of coffee.
Yeah.
So becoming aware is like having your first cup of coffee, and now the cloud's out of your mind. Mm-hmm. Isn't that powerful?
Mm-hmm. So taking in inventory, I remember at one point, this is about 11 years ago, lowest point of my life. I had really bottomed out myself. I was a workaholic, and now I'm not, thank God. I've worked through a lot of those issues. And I remember taking a giant sheet of paper, those huge Post-it notes, and I drew a line down the center, and on the left side, I said old life, and on the right side, I wrote new life. And I wrote all these things on the left side that would have contextualized my life prior to being awoken. And then on the right side, I wrote all the things that I wanted. I hadn't experienced them yet, but I wrote them all on the right-hand side. But that, for me, that was one way to take inventory. How do you encourage people to take inventory?
Well, number one, I like the way you did it. And it reminds me of when I used to work at Miller's Outpost when I was 16 and a half.
Oh, I haven't heard those words in a long time.
That was back in the day. You had to be back in the day to understand Miller's Outpost. But that was a great job.
The gene wall. A lot of genes.
100%. And plus, I got to work with like 90% women. So that was great. The whole staff was like all women, and then we had like 2 guys.
That's great.
Me and a blonde guy. So we had to take inventory. And so I would say probably once a month, we'd have to go through the store and take inventory, which was very tedious. Mm-hmm. So inventory of your own life can become very tedious. And that's why some people don't like to take inventory and get realistic. So when I'm life coaching people, I go through the different categories of their life. Their physical life, okay?
Okay.
Mental, which is the clarity of the mind. Their job, their family, their spiritual life, their social life. You know, when you have a setback, most times it hits all those areas of your life.
Right.
Man, because it could be a problem with your job, but it could hit you physically, right?
Mm-hmm. We're holistic.
Hit your mind, your family, can hit the whole thing. So taking inventory is tedious, but you got to do it. Because now we know what we're dealing with, and then we can find ways to go forward. So awake, aware, take inventory. The fourth one, David, is you got to, again, find the right partners. Okay, whether a sobriety coach for some, or a life coach, or a pastor, or a rabbi, or a priest, or some form of a mentor, you've got to find the right partners in your life. And I think that's one thing David Trotter is doing on this podcast, is that, you know, you are mentoring people. You got a lifelong experience of mentoring people and training people. I think a lot of this podcast is about that. So you got to have the right partners in your life.
Mm-hmm. I heard you recently say that for those partners to be right, they need to have the right or the same mindset and motives that you have.
Wow, you have studied me. So
how would you describe those? Like, if I'm looking for partners, if I've had a challenge in life, and this is true whether you've had a setback or not, you know what I mean? If you're looking to take a next step in your life, you're looking for good people to be around you. What are you looking for in their mindset and motives?
Okay, so there are three categories of partners in our life. Number one is usually like, hey, how are you doing?
Okay.
Two is somebody that is a little closer to you that, David, maybe you'll go to a Dodger game with, that kind of person. So it's a number two friend. You'll share some of your secrets and intimacies and things about your life, okay? The third level of partnership is that really deep level of partnership that most people don't really have in their lives, okay? So I always say to people, do not share your problems with level one people. And do not even share your problems with level two people. You need to find some level three people who have similar mindset and a similar motive.
What happens if I share, you know, some of my weaknesses with 1 and 2 level people?
What happens is most times they do not understand you because their mindset is different than your mindset. And so the people that we're usually drawn to are the people in that third level that have similar mindsets, similar motives. And very, very, very important. And so you can really lose time, lose energy, and even lose your way by sharing your problems with level one, level two people. And most people do that, and I'm going to use a term from the old days, because they're handy. They're handy. They're right there in front of you. Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
Somebody at the job, and you're discussing your relationship with a man, and because the lady there is handy.
Proximity.
We got to wait.
Yeah.
We got to wait.
So what if, you know, I start thinking about mindset and motives, and the fact that sometimes if I've had a setback, I recognize that my mindset and motives may not be where I want them to be. So I actually start looking for someone who has the mindset and motives that I want to develop in my life.
100%, David. And here's the great thing about life today that was not the same as when I grew up in the 60s and 70s, is that we have access to things like TED Talks, mastermind classes, okay, podcasts like yours. It is a different day. So I could pickpocket Richard Branson today and take a bunch of his great ideas without even knowing Richard Branson. So we have access to things that we've never had access to. So 100%, it's not always talking to somebody, but it's maybe reading a Brené Brown book on daring bravely.
So if I had a setback, I've had a divorce, a breakup with a partner, a financial issue. I've maybe gotten a DUI. I've had a loss, a death in the family, whatever it is. I've had this setback. I got to become awake. I got to become aware. I got to take inventory. I've got to now look for partners. Why would I need other people? Like, what's the point of that? Why can't I just go alone and do it myself?
Okay, so you need other people because they're going to have a different vantage point that's different than the dilemma that you are currently facing. Okay, so let's say a Chris Brown who's in trouble over in Paris right now. So if I came into his life, I would come at his life from a different vantage point. Number one, I'm older, I'm seasoned, and I'm not walking out his lifestyle. Mm-hmm. So number one, the vantage point can really be amazing, right? They see things from a different point of view. Like, let's say if me and you went to a Laker game, and let's say you knew Jeannie Buss, but I don't. So you're sitting on the floor. But I don't know Jeannie Buss, so I'm on the highest seat at the Staples Center.
If we went together, I'd hope we'd be sitting together.
No, but I'm just saying for this illustration, David.
Sure.
So you're on the floor because you know Jeannie Buss, but I don't. So I'm way up there. So the way you see the game and I see the game are what?
Totally different.
Yeah. Totally different.
Yeah.
So you need some people in your lives that see it different. And then I also am looking for people that have experience in going through the dilemma that I am currently going through.
Okay.
How powerful is that?
Sure.
I'm going through a divorce, give me somebody that understands going through a divorce or going through that type of pain.
Right.
Yes.
So I need to look for somebody who's maybe been through what I've gone through, but also maybe somebody different who is where I want to go.
Yes. You are looking for somebody that's had the experience of going through the pain, or somebody that just is living a healthy life that you aspire to live.
Right. All right. So Chris Brown, I know you're probably, one of our early listeners to Launch Yourself Today. So
of course,
feel free to reach out. We'll connect you with Tim.
Yes.
He's available.
Hey, listen, David, it's surprising who watches us all and listens to us. It's mind-boggling sometimes.
All right. So what would you say comes next as I'm finding those partners with the motives and the mindset that I want to have?
Okay. So what happens is that now you got your team. Okay. So you create a team, and now we're going to start pulling you out of your setback.
Okay.
But what you need to do is cooperate. And this is so powerful. Most people do not cooperate with their comeback. Because they're into guilt, shame, regret, anger.
Yeah.
And then so they cement themselves in the setback position. So the comeback team is here. Here we are.
Right.
We're trying to pull you out.
Yeah.
Nah, I deserve this crap. Look what I did.
Sure.
Nah, if you lay down with dogs, you get fleas. That's why I'm itching.
Yeah.
So you got to cooperate, doggone it. And so the cool thing about, like in the realm of God, just for one moment, is that the Bible says he does not treat you as your sins deserve. So a lot of people think they deserve something. Like, I did this bad, I deserve it, so therefore my life should suck. From age 41 to 91. Well, God does not treat you as your sins deserve. For as high as the heavens are above the earth, so great is his love for those that fear him, for he knows your frame. He knows your structure. He knows you suck in certain areas. So, he can get you through it.
So would you say that there is the universe, divine God, cheering you on in your setback, or is there a propensity to know the universe is actually swaying the opposite direction, trying to hold you back? You know what I mean? Like, is the universe moving us in a particular direction, or is it just flat, even, and it's really up to you?
I think the universe is always moving you forward. You're a parent. I'm a parent. My kids can get up into mischief. If they do, I'm always trying to move them forward. I'm not trying to keep them in detention. Mm-hmm. I used to hate detention, man. Don't be putting Tim Storey in detention. I got a little bit of ADHD. Some of you guys have been in detention. Get out of detention.
Yeah, so there's a natural movement forward. And so I hear that we sometimes don't cooperate with that natural movement. We're not cooperating with the team that's cheering us on, and we submit ourselves in a setback. I love that. Man, there's guilt, there's shame, there's blame, there's anger. We become a martyr in some way.
100%. I deserve this. This is why I gained 40 pounds. Mm-hmm. This is why I stay in this habit. This is why I now have 19 cats. But if you have 19 cats and you rescued 17, I'm good with you. But if you just got 19 cats just because, it's a lot of cats.
And some people will say that we're getting a hit off of cementing ourselves in a setback. There's something that we are actually getting out of it mentally. Well, I don't have to work hard.
That's a fact, because I've been working with the best psychiatrists. Let's get realistic here. Probably since I was 25, when I really started getting good at this comeback thing. I've worked with the best psychiatrists, great psychologists in the world. I was just in Marbella, Spain, working with one of the best psychiatrists in the world. And talking about the way we're wired. Yes, David, people are wired where they are okay in that setback because there's a feeling of poor me, and feeling sorry for themselves. And my kids never come and see me, or, you get my point. Mm-hmm. And so there's an energy that they get from it. But the thing that they're missing what the universe is already doing, and you need to catch up with where the universe has already taken you. Mm-hmm. No doubt about it. Some of you need to press fast forward and catch up. It's 2019.
What role does goal setting or having a vision for the future impact that comeback?
Everything. Because a promise brings hope and expectation. When my father said to me when I was 7, Timmy, we're going to Disneyland on Saturday. I got free tickets from somebody at my job. Man, he should not have told me on Wednesday, because Wednesday night I was bothering him. Thursday I was bothering him. Friday I was bothering him. A promise brings hope and expectation. Any client I deal with, I always try to help them see the freaking promise. There's a promise. Come on, guys. See it, believe it, expect it. It'll create hope and expectation in your life.
Mm-hmm. How do I know we have, listeners that are going, okay, maybe I'm not in a setback, but I'm kind of on autopilot. I've just been kind of cruising along, whether I've been a stay-at-home mom for many years. I'm I'm thinking about re-entering the workforce, or maybe I've been in a cubicle for quite a few years, but I'm kind of figuring out, do I want to do something different? But I'm not sure, right? I've got some fears. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do with my life. I'm just not sure what that promise is. I'm not sure what that plan is. Like, how do you coach people on how to determine what their thing is in life, what they want to do?
It is easier than people make it. I think some of the greatest gems in life, some of the greatest blessings are right in front of us, and we miss them. So what I teach in these seminars that I do all across the world is one way to find out what's next is observation and conversation. Observation and conversation. Mm-hmm. See, I learned even by being at your house, because I was at your house watching a documentary that you did. It was so good. I learned that you like order. I saw that in your house. I learned that you like art. I learned that you're into your kids because I saw how you were responding to your children. So I learned these things about you in just being around you at that time, because we've been around each other other times. So I was with you at that point for about 2.5 hours. And I remember driving away and I thought, wow, he's very structured and a nice guy, but very structured. So that was my observation.
Mm-hmm.
So from my observation of your life, I could say, whoa, he's really good with his kids. I like the way he was talking to his kids. That's an observation. So that could help me want to say, I want to be that way with my kids. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, David's into art. That could make me go, I want to get into art like that. Or his house is super cool and very together. I want my house to be cool and together. Isn't that awesome? Mm-hmm. So we're changed, and we find the comeback path through observation and conversation.
Okay.
And I've always said this, sometimes you're one conversation away from the breakthrough you've been waiting for. Mm-hmm. One talk, mm-hmm. one conversation can change your life.
One conversation.
This may be it.
Yeah. Give me some examples of some inspiring comebacks that you're inspired by.
Well, I think that I'm obviously inspired by Robert Downey Jr. I serve on a board with him. We're doing something called ARC, helping to reform people that are in prison or come out of prison. And Robert's a great friend of mine. I mean, when you think about it, that he had a problem with addiction, worked through the addiction problem over a long period of time it took him, was able to stop shaming himself, stop feeling guilty, and let the setback be the setback, and then get the right partners around him, which he did because I was around during that whole process, and then get a break of being Iron Man. And if you ever have him on your podcast, you'll know he didn't see Iron Man as being the giant breakthrough. He just saw it as being another part he would play.
Mm-hmm, the next step.
And yeah, I mean, so now it turned him into this mega star, brings him over $50 million a year. It's a lot of money, David. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, that's a great example of a guy that was on the cover of Newsweek magazine, followed the principles of the comeback. And when LA Times interviewed him, he talked about me being his coach and the things that I told him about the greater the setback, the greater the comeback. And he bought into it. So I think I'll leave with that one right there.
I think a lot of times in the midst of a setback, there can be embarrassment, whether it's something that's just miscellaneous, like you said, or something happened to me or something that I caused. There can be an embarrassment. But what's interesting is we have so many examples, such as Robert Downey Jr., that if you just keep your head down and keep moving forward toward that comeback, people all of a sudden get really forgiving and forgetful. Forgiven.
100%. And something that to add to those words that you just said that are really good, so just a little addition, is that, like you just said, everybody's been through something. So it's kind of like, I suck, now what? So people will say like, you suck. Okay, so I suck. So what do you want me to do? Stay in my setback? You want me to stay in detention forever? So like, I deal with a lot of men that have done things they should not have done. And that's my thing to them. Okay, you suck, now what? Now admit it that you blew it and deal with it, right? And let's go.
Right.
But you might have a limp for a while. I'm not going to say you're not going to have a limp. You may have a scar. You may be tarnished in some people's eyes, but who cares? God's opinion of me makes man's opinion irrelevant. Mm-hmm. I'm not like on the American Idol for Earth. meaning I'm not looking for everybody's approval. And
Sure.
I really mean that.
There's no call. There's no call-in line to tell people what they think about you.
Exactly. Exactly.
So what about your own life? What's an example of a setback that you've experienced at some point over your years, and how were you able to turn that into a comeback?
I mean, there's been a few, but it'd be easy to say relationships because a couple of those didn't go the way I want them to. But let's go to my brother's death. I mean, my brother died. He's 3 years older than me. He was an engineer at McDonnell Douglas, super smart guy, excellent at things I was not excellent at. He was the guy that was watching my dad as he was fixing the car. So my brother was able to fix cars. He one time when he was probably 17, he bought a Volkswagen, broke it all the way down, David, to where it was all on the floor just to build it back up, just to see if he can do it.
Wow. That's amazing.
While adding better parts to it at 17. And he started with alcohol and stayed with alcohol, and alcohol became his destruction. He ended up passing away at an early age while he was an engineer for McDonnell Douglas. Man, that was hard to get through. That was hard to get through because I tried to throw him so many lifelines, a lot of guilt. Here I am, like the life coach to the stars. And my own brother passes like right there next to me. So that was a tough one. That was a tough one. And that probably realistically took me about 10 years to get through. So I had to play injured. I had to keep speaking my comeback message while I was playing injured. But to all you listeners, man, sometimes you got to play injured.
Yeah. And, as I connect with people who have setbacks or loss like that, I don't want to tell them oftentimes how long it takes. Yeah. The other day, my wife and I were talking about something. I don't remember what it was. It was somebody had an affair or there was a divorce or, whatever it was. I was like, okay, well, that's probably going to take them about 5 years to get through that,
In reality. And so the great thing though, is that even if I know it's going to take one of my clients 5 years, because I deal with some guys that have really messed some things up pretty bad. And it really might take them 5 years, but that's okay because you could still be alive.
Of course.
In the moment that you're in, fully present, fully feeling, fully alive, right? It may take you that 5 years to get your money back to where you want it to, your health where it needs to be, your relationship with your kids where it needs to be, but at least you are on your way.
And if you don't start today, that's going to be 5 years and another day. So you're going to live most likely you're going to live those 5 years no matter what. So
yes,
go through the process of learning, and there's really no other option other than to quit. And that's not
David,
real.
Let's throw this quote in there in the midst of what you just said.
Let's hear it.
Today's decisions are tomorrow's realities. Today's decisions, that's a Tim Storey quote, are tomorrow's realities. Heck yes. At 50 something years of age, what I am, do you think I want to go to the gym 5 days a week? Heck no. I do it because I need to. I need to be alive. I need to push my body. I really want to just go through McDonald's drive-thru and get the deluxe breakfast and go home and then watch the news. But I go to the gym because I have to. Yeah. Today's decisions are tomorrow's realities.
How would you suggest, and I don't even know if this is possible, but how would you suggest that we try to avoid setbacks in our lives?
Well, I think that you can avoid some, but some, again, are life interruptions that are created by people in your family, someone you married, your own children. But you can avoid certain setbacks through wisdom. As you grow in wisdom, I guarantee you, you will minimize your setbacks. Not in age. People always say the older you get, the wiser you get. Not necessarily so. I know a lot of people that are 70 that are not that wise. So you got to grow in wisdom. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So grow in wisdom and you'll start making better choices.
Growing in wisdom. Yeah. And part of that wisdom would be who we surround ourselves with. I know that sounds bad because it's like, oh, we're supposed to love everybody, but I don't necessarily have to spend that level 2 and 3 time with everybody.
100%. And you have to really learn to value yourself to where you see yourself as something valuable, and that not everybody should hear your inner feelings, thoughts. You know, again, a Bible verse, do not cast your pearls before people who don't get it. Mm-hmm. Right? So I would agree with you on that one.
Mm-hmm. What is we've talked about the downside of cementing our setback, but what's the upside of a comeback? Like, cast some vision for us. Help us help us see the potential. Some of us are, maybe in the midst of a setback right now, and we're still feeling the darkness. What's the potential of walking through? Do you mind
if I do the Rocky theme as I say this? Just think of the Rocky theme. Dun, 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 dun. When I do that, David, what does it make you think?
Oh, man. I mean, I see red, white, and blue. I'm glistening.
You see him going up the steps.
Oh, yeah.
Philadelphia. Boom, 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 boom. You see him eating the egg whites in the morning, right? You see his coach on the side, the mentor, the old guy.
Yeah.
Come on, Rocky. Is that all you got? Okay. So the comeback, come on, man. It's good stuff. You turn your mess into your message, your test into your testimony. You become an example for other people that are in a setback. Doggone it, you can get through. Mm-hmm. You become a billboard for an incredible life. Heck yes, I'm a walking billboard. Mm. A lot of times when I show up places, like, people will say, oh my God, dude, I saw you like in 1983. You almost look the same. Or, my God, it's awesome, you're still at it. No, you become a comeback for a better life. It's brilliant. Yeah. I love being a comeback guy. I really do.
That's good. If somebody's listening today and they're struggling with something, what would you say to them? You're talking directly to them. You're going, here's what I would encourage you to do today.
Here's what I want to say to you. There are seasons in life. There's a time to be silent. There's a time to speak. There's a time to tear and a time to mend. It was a song by the Byrds in 1968. Became #1 in the UK and #5 in America. It was taken from Psalms or Ecclesiastes chapter 3. There are seasons in life. So maybe you're in a season of silence. A season of silence is a whisper where your life seems very quiet. Take that season that's a whisper and turn it into a library and a sanctuary. A library of learning and getting stronger, a sanctuary of getting to know yourself. And realizing there's a time to be silent and a time to speak. The speaking time will come again, where life brings you more volume. So when you're left in that season of silence, know that very soon you're going to get right. And know this, is sometimes you got to go left before you get right.
One of the resources in the library that you're talking about that I want to make sure that people have drawn to their attention, not only your books, which we'll link to in the show notes, but and they can go to timstorey.com to access all that good stuff, timstorey.com, and we'll link to that in all your social media, of course, in the show notes. But I just downloaded a couple weeks ago your new app called Utmost. $1.99, and I get to be inspired. I get to meditate with you, educated by you, and reach out and connect on social media. I was just listening this morning on the meditation app about confidence, specifically prevailing. So you do these meditations. Well, I shouldn't talk about the app. You talk about it. Describe this app and how that could be helpful.
To be honest with you, David, I like the way you just described it. So I'll take from what you said. Thank you for that. First, I want to thank Stanley Hainsworth, who's amazing. He put $55,000 into this app. He is the branding expert for Nike and Starbucks, both of them.
Nice.
He's one of those brilliant minds on the planet. Has a big old staff of about 80 people up in Seattle, Washington. He so believed in me, he put the money up for the app. The app is doing fantastic. You can get it at the Apple store, right?
Correct.
So iTunes, the Utmost app, UTMOST.
What does that mean, by the way? What does utmost mean?
Utmost is the opposite of almost. So most people get stuck in an almost life. So I say, don't live an almost life, live an utmost life, which is the better version of yourself. So in this app, I'm going to bring out the better version of yourself. Don't you like that?
That's good. That's good.
So the Utmost app is an app that you can go to daily for only $1.99. There's like thousands of dollars worth of product on there. And we continue to put new product on every single month. So the Utmost app on iTunes. Man, Dave, you pushed it good.
Just this morning, I was driving back from the gym before I took my son to school, and I'm listening to you through my car stereo telling me to prevail for like about a minute and 45 seconds. I was getting fired up. I'm like, I'm prevailing. Here we go.
Prevail.